It's max. It is moving very, very quick. Storm motion today, anywhere from 35 to 45 miles an hour. We're getting updates now, literally every hour. And in this instance, 6:20. They did an update at 6:20, which is a little bit unusual. But we have an intensifying hurricane on landfall, and we know that because when you take a look at the enhanced satellite imagery, and this is the beauty of this particular type of imagery, you can see the magenta expanding and trying to wrap around that core. This is not a weakening storm. Now let's take a look now at Helene. As you can see, the storm now building up to the northeast at about 23 miles an hour. Looks like we have a tornado warning there back towards Lakeland and just to the south and west of our viewing area. I'm going to take you to that in just a second. Let me show you what's going on right there. There's the storm. There's that Lakeland. It's just out of our area, but once this gets just south of Sumter County, we're going to stick with that because of the forward motion of these tornado warnings today and the speed at which they're moving. There's the eye, roughly about 5 hours south of the Big Bend area. ETA of landfall probably between 11 and 11:30 this evening. So there's that tornado warned area just west of the Winter Haven area. This is going to move into Sumter County very quickly. So we want to try to give folks here in southern Sumter County a quick heads up. Again, storm movement anywhere from 35 to 45 miles an hour. This is going to jump over I-4 into the western portions of our viewing area. This is just the beginning, what I think is going to be a couple-hour duration. You can see the velocity product right there, that little feature there, and you can see there's 75. The overall bowling alley for this piece of energy is coming right up 75. So that's why I want to put Lake, I want to put Marion, and I want to put Sumter County on notice. Notice the winds right here now. Back towards Sumter County and over towards the Tampa Bay area. That's a 72-mile-an-hour wind gust now in the Tampa Bay area. There's that tornado warning about from now to 7 o'clock in that area. And then eventually, if it can hold together and not weaken, it would be in Sumter County after the 7 o'clock hour. So we're trying to give you as much advance notice as possible. Nasty cell there just east of Port Canaveral, the Kennedy Space Center, but I think that's going to stay offshore, Cam.
That's right. This makes sense why we're under a tornado watch through tonight. It's technically till 8 o'clock, but I think the tornado threat lasts until midnight tonight at least. We'll continue to monitor it for you, but all of Central Florida under that risk, and Tony just showed you there, we do have that Polk County tornado, and we've had a couple other tornado warnings already throughout the day today, one in Volusia and a couple in Brevard County earlier this morning. And so as we continue to look at some of the impacts, other impacts that we'll see from Helene, wave heights starting to build here with Helene. We're talking about 35-foot waves already, and again, that wave buildup has to go somewhere, so we are expecting storm surge to be catastrophic in the Big Bend region. So with a Category 4 storm, we are expecting catastrophic damage there in the Big Bend region. Most trees down, power and water out for not just days, but weeks. And in terms of the storm surge, so 20-foot waves, which is what they're expecting, or storm surge in the Big Bend region, is enough to cover the entire second-story floor of a house. So just to put that in perspective for you, but even look at Tampa Bay, we're looking at storm surge up to 8 feet there, Southwest Florida up to 7 feet, and even on the first coast there, 3-foot storm surge. High surf advisory in effect for all of our coastal locations through tomorrow because of the building waves, breakers as high as 4 to 7 feet. As we take a look at your extended weather forecast, the biggest concerns will be from now through the overnight hours, so that's why we saw that impact icon through about daybreak tomorrow morning. After that, conditions will gradually improve, and this upcoming weekend, we are going to keep the lingering rain showers around thanks to that tropical moisture that's still going to stick around even though Helene will be long gone. And then next week, we start to dry things out with lower rain chances in the forecast. We'll continue to monitor any impacts we will see from Helene as things really deteriorate here for Central Florida over the next several hours, especially for the western counties coming up.
Storms are a part of life in Central Florida. For many families, just preparing for one can take up every bit of their savings. And for some, dealing with the aftermath is just the beginning of the crisis. They struggle to even replace food that was lost from days without power. Some of our neighbors get their hours cut back at work because of the storm. And now, the weight of knowing they won't make rent this month is paralyzing. We know because we see the faces of worry and desperation. Heart of Florida United Way answers the call to restock, rebuild, and reset. Just like the tide, we rise united. And your support is more important than ever because United starts with you. For $19 a month, your gift will help us weather the storms. Know that when you give to United Way, your money stays local and it's put to work immediately. Please call this number, scan the QR code, or visit unitedstartswithyou.org to donate.
I'm AJ Harrison, Boniface Hires Chevrolet in Melbourne, Florida. And it's our truck season where you get up to $12,000 off new Chevys or 1.9%.
In space, check this out. Cameras on the International Space Station captured this image of Hurricane Helene just before 1 o'clock this afternoon. You can see just how massive this storm looks from above. Almost all counties in Florida have declared a state of emergency. Now, some Floridians have reported instances of price gouging when it comes to fuel, water, and hotel rooms. That's according to the state attorney general's office.
Officials want to remind you, price gouging hotline is currently active. Businesses may not drastically increase prices on essential items during a declared state of emergency.
If those prices are jacked up, we need you to let us know. We've already stopped some of these price increases in real time. That lets everybody get the supplies they need and be able to afford them.
Consumers who feel prices on essential items have been drastically increased in the past few days can contact a report at the hotline listed right there on your screen, 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. Our team coverage of Hurricane Helene continues. Coming up at 7, our expert meteorologists are working around the clock to keep you up to date on the newest models.
And we've got reporters spread out all over Central Florida tonight, keeping an eye on conditions where you live. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Helene, now hours away from landfall.
The storm is going to hit Florida's Big Bend region sometime this evening.
It's going to be a really dangerous situation that's going to play out over the next 12 to 24 hours.
Hurricane hunters flying into the storm as it moves through the Gulf. Flooding already happening in Southwest Florida, leading to rescues and strong surf and winds in Marco Island.
The storm triggering a tornado warning in Volusia County hours after a funnel cloud was spotted in Titusville.
Not going to stay at a Cat 3. I've got things to do tomorrow besides going to my own funeral.
We have team coverage tonight from Central Florida to the Panhandle as Helene is just hours away from landfall.
We've also got an active Polk County tornado warning as well. Right now at 7, a live look towards New Smyrna Beach as rough surf crashes ashore. Conditions keep deteriorating across Central Florida as Hurricane Helene washes and goes closer towards the Panhandle. Today we've seen 3 different tornado warnings, especially along our coastline as we get the so-called dirty side of the storm.
Meanwhile, on our state's west coast, we are seeing cities slammed with storm surge. Let's go ahead and get you over to our first warning weather team with the very latest. Cam?
Yeah, we had a 6:20 update with the Hurricane Hunter planes flying into the system, and they found winds of 130 miles per hour, which makes Helene now a Category 4 system, moving to the northeast at 23 miles per hour, and the pressure dropping down to 945. You can take a look at the system, how symmetrical it is, indications of a very powerful hurricane as it barrels off to the northeast, expected to make landfall later on this evening, again, likely as a Category 4 hurricane. You can see we are expecting it to still be a Category 2 storm, even inland over South Georgia around 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. So this is just indicative of the forward speed and the momentum and how powerful this hurricane is. Speaking of this powerful hurricane, look at the wide expanse of wind field associated with it. The yellow, that's the expansive wind field associated with this system. Look how far reaching it is. It goes all about 412 miles across, and it stretches basically almost the entire state of Florida. Take a look at the winds within the system. We are pinging very strong winds. The bright reds that you see there are some of the gusty winds associated with it. Winds of about 97 miles per hour offshore, 84 as well. So very gusty winds associated with Helene as it continues to move more, but closer to the eye, we are pinging winds of 110, 111 miles per hour. Marquise Mita is pinging that for me. Thanks, Marquise. Looking at the wind speeds right now, we're seeing wind speeds in Tampa Bay close to 70 miles per hour already. A bit closer to home, though, look at this 52-mile-per-hour wind gusts already in portions of Lake County. So our western county is really starting to see some of the brunt of this already. Tornado watch is in effect for all of Central Florida through tonight. And to talk more about the threat for tornadoes is meteorologist Marquise Mita.
Thank you, Cam. Now, we've seen quite a few tornado watches and, quite a few tornado warnings already here in Central Florida today. Starting in the morning, we had a piece of energy coming across I-95, and we had several more still. Just actually had a warning 2 hours south, and that possibly could enter Polk County. So it's a feature that we are going to keep our eyes on. But these outer bands still circulating around Helene. These are fast-moving pieces of energy, and some of them can contain some rotation. So all across the rest of the evening, we'll carry that tornado watch in which the threat is going to be high, not just here in Central Florida, but as you move further north with Helene crossing over that Georgia line tomorrow morning, we could see some tornado threats on the back end of this system here. So across I-95 into our north and easternmost counties, we're talking about Flagler across Palm Coast. That's where we could potentially see a spin up tomorrow. So we'll take you hour by hour, frame by frame with a futurecast tornado threat. The biggest threat that we'll see here in Central Florida will be across I-75 as Helene eventually makes landfall late tonight in the Big Bend area. We see that threat jump from a 1 to a 2 across I-75 into Ocala for Marion County. And then, as we mentioned, the back end could possibly see some spin-ups as well. So something that we definitely have to keep our eyes on as we continue over time. But here's a look at that future cast. You see how massive and expansive Helene is, right? Those strong tropical storm force winds will be rushing inland across I-4 overnight. We see those bands of rain still rotating around Helene, and with these strong rain showers, we will see gusts upwards of 35 miles per hour, which is the reason we will stay under a tropical storm warning here in Central Florida. But your next 12 hours, they shape up like this. Overnight into the 12 o'clock hour, possibly 1 and 2, we'll still carry that first warning weather day icon as we will feel the stronger force impacts from Helene. And then into the morning tomorrow, it's just a first alert weather day in which we do show less significant impacts, still breezy conditions. Rain chances will dwindle throughout the morning. I do believe the wind wind will be the major impact. And we'll take a closer look at that with Futurecast coming up in the next 15 minutes.
Keith, thank you. Right now, NASA is also tracking Hurricane Helene as it nears landfall. They've got cameras along the International Space Station showing the hurricane. This afternoon, the station flew directly over Helene and parts of the southern U.S. As Helene races towards the Panhandle, people who have not yet evacuated are being told to find a safe place to ride out this storm.
WESH's Justin Checker is live in St. Martin, where the storm will likely have a devastating impact. Justin?
Good evening to you both. At this hour, conditions are starting to deteriorate, but we know the worst is yet to come. In the last 20 minutes or so, we saw an FHP state trooper drive by this marina, reminding any folks left out here now's the time to evacuate, if not now, to shelter in place. Back in 2018, the marina's owner told us there was a 10-foot storm surge from Hurricane Michael. Officials fear this could be as high as 20 feet. This will not be survivable in places along the Gulf Coast in low-lying areas. And I'm actually looking right now, there are two gentlemen standing on their fishing boat over there with a dog. They may be riding out this storm. As for our crew with WESH 2 News, we're going to move further inland towards Tallahassee, the state capital, to ride out the worst of this storm. But we do know they're expecting widespread power outages, down trees, down wires throughout this region. So the Panhandle is bracing for the worst at this hour. And again, we saw that trooper come by just a short time ago to remind people now's the time to evacuate or really to shelter in place because we know the worst from Helene is headed this way. Reporting live in Wakulla County, I'm Justin Checker, WESH 2 News.
Now, many of the people being told to evacuate don't have to go very far. Right now, many are hunkered down in shelters in Tallahassee.
I just felt like the storm was different. Just gut feeling. It was just different. It's big, its size, the wind speed. I just felt like this was different. It was the best thing to do.
And here in Central Florida, there are shelters in Marion, Orange, and Lake counties. We have all that information available for you on our website, wesh.com. Now we're going to take you to Lake County, where we are closely monitoring the St. Johns River. The river often floods, we know, damaging homes during big storms.
WESH 2's Haley Crumble-Home has been live along the river in Astor Forest. Haley, what's the latest?
So not a ton of rain yet, which is good for now because Astor got plenty of rain in September. So the water levels are already high. You can see we're on this patio back here and the river, the canal right up to it. But if we take a look on this side of their patio, the river is already, the water is already coming in. Now, I talked with the homeowners here. They actually say that they raised this patio up about 8 inches a few years ago, but clearly it wasn't enough. This actually, as water has receded, because if you take a look at this pool, this was blue, but this river water came in from the canal, flooded this pool. It looks like this at this point. To give you an idea of how high this is, this boat here, the Clean Getaway 2, the homeowner tells me that when the river isn't so high, this glass here is actually pretty much flush with the bottom of this patio. So river at moderate flood stage right now, according to the county. We have not seen the worst of the rain yet. They are expecting some level of rise. We'll see how much. Now, some people are going to be sticking around and riding out the storm here. And if they do stay, if there are any problems, the county tells me that they do have high water teams stationed at both ends of the county that will be able to help if anything is needed. For now, live in Astor, Haley Crumble-Home, WESH 2 News.
Volusia County has suspended beach driving for the rest of the day while Hurricane Helene passes. Even though the hurricane is in the Gulf, the Atlantic will see rip currents, high tides, large waves, and rough surf. And our entire viewing area is under a tornado watch tonight. Earlier today in Brevard County, near Titusville, a viewer captured this video of what appears to be a funnel cloud. We have reached out to the National Weather Service and are waiting to see if any tornadoes have been confirmed.
We heard from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at the top of the hour giving an update, and he talked about the importance of doing everything you can to stay safe during this hurricane. Things like staying out of flooded streets, staying away from downed power lines as well.
If you're sheltering in place in one of those evacuation zones, make sure you let people know that you're doing that. Whether it's a friend, a family member. I know some of the counties say you can check in with them and give them that information if you're comfortable doing that. But please do that if you decided to hunker down. Once we start to get the real nasty conditions, don't at that point go on the roadways. That is very hazardous. That does produce fatalities when people do that in the middle of the storm.
He also had other reminders talking about staying away from downed power lines should you lose power. And speaking of power, here's a look at the very latest numbers of homes and businesses without power right now. Statewide, nearly 288,000 customers, not people, but homes and businesses.
The Federal Emergency Management is also keeping a close eye on this storm and is ready to come to Florida as soon as it passes. The agency also says people need to stay in contact with their insurance company regardless of the agency's response.
We will be assessing those damages, and if there is a major disaster declaration, that will open up more resources. But what people need to do is take photos if there's been damage to their homes. They need to contact their insurance company. They need to gather those important documents, and so all of that's going to be needed, whether there's a major disaster declaration or not.
President Biden has approved emergency declarations for the states of Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and North Carolina.
The Dr. Phillips Center has canceled all performances today because of the storm. This includes one of the first Broadway shows this season, Girl from the North Country, and Sean Holcomb Inside Jetsons Live. Also, Advent Health Schools of the Arts classes are also canceled.
Our coverage of Hurricane Helene continues as we look at one of our sky cams showing exactly what the conditions look like outside. This is at Naples Pier, where you can see the surf has picked up, and you can tell which way the hurricane is going because it's all going one direction.
Trade to a new Honda and get more for your trade than ever before. Then save on a new Honda. From just $239 a month, Hondas are in stock and ready for you. From $239 a month. Search your local Honda dealer today.
In Central Florida, the weather is always changing.
That's why we work around the clock, so you know exactly what to plan for.
From tracking the next big storm to how to dress the kids for school.
That's why at WESH 2, we keep you at the center of what we do.
Constantly monitoring the latest data so you can be prepared for what's next.
No guessing, just an easy, understandable forecast, sun up to sundown.
This is WESH 2 First Warning Weather, certified Central Florida's most accurate.
My husband and I were involved in a very bad car accident, and we decided to call attorney Dan Newland. Within minutes of our call, we became clients. We were so relieved that Dan and his team would be fighting for us. Dan's commitment to our case was extraordinary. He was with us every step of the way, and at the end of our case, Dan got us $1.5 million.
Involved in a car accident? Call me now at 407-888-8000.
Thank you, Dan, for winning our case.
With drawings held twice a day, every day for exciting cash prizes. Pick games, pick winners by the bunch. Pick daily games from the Florida Lottery.
I grew up under a dictatorship before coming to the U.S. I'm Debbie Mukersel-Powell, and for me, freedom isn't some political slogan. It's why I came to America. But Rick Scott is trying to take away your freedoms right now. For women, banning abortion. For families, raising taxes. And for seniors, ending Social Security and the freedom to retire with dignity. If you care about freedom, elect a senator who actually believes in it. That's why I approve this message.
Shop the $5 million mattress madness at Hudson's Furniture. But don't let the name deceive you. Save big with the hottest styles too. With 50% off store-wide savings, plus up to 48 months special financing. Shop Mattress Madness only at Hudson's Furniture.
This is the time to trade into a new Honda. Save thousands with 1.9% financing. All Hondas are in stock, including gas, hybrid, and electric vehicles. From 1.9, search your local Honda dealer today.
You're watching continuing coverage of Helene from WESH 2.
All right, here's a live look at the southernmost point of the U.S. down in Key West. And there's somebody looking to win an award you do not want to win, being washed away by the ocean. You can see at least one, maybe two people down there that are, we've been seeing people try and catch some of these waves that we've seen oftentimes in the past. Yep. Whenever there's a strong system off the coastline. Again, this system's now almost parallel with us, so they're only getting the last parts of it, but the ocean is still very angry down in Key West. Helene, now a major Category 4 hurricane, one of the largest storms to come out of the Gulf of Mexico in the last century.
Yeah, Michael Yoshida is in Steinhatchee in the Big Bend as people brace for landfall.
Every minute that goes by brings us closer to having conditions that are going to be simply too dangerous to navigate.
The National Weather Service is using another term, unsurvivable. When it comes to the storm surge, Helene is expected to unleash on parts of the Florida coast in the coming hours.
If it's 20 feet like they're saying, it's going to change the landscape in Franklin County, I can assure you that.
Franklin and Taylor counties are in Helene's expected landfall zone. But for much of Florida's Gulf Coast, mandatory evacuations have been in place since Wednesday, with state and local officials imploring residents, leave while you can.
Some people have made decisions that they're going to hunker down, even though they were requested to leave.
Regardless of that, the governor says rescue crews are standing by.
If there's people that are going to be in distress, we're going to be there to be able to assist in those efforts.
Their message now, survival.
If you hear trees snapping around your home, treat it like a tornado. Get to an interior portion of your home, get as low as you can.
Right now, along with Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia are under a state of emergency. In Steinhatchee, Florida, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
All right, waves already flooding roads in Cedar Key. This telephone pole, yep, it's a telephone pole, has storm surge markers, including a record-setting 7 feet from Hurricane Idalia last year. And there's a solid chance Helene could smash that record in the coming hours. The National Guard has moved along with other first responders to protect and help.
Our team of first warning meteorologists joining us now. They have been tracking Helene, obviously, for several hours. Guys, we saw it go from a 3 to a 4 fairly quickly.
Yep.
At one point.
Absolutely. I think it was like a 4-hour time period that we were tracking the winds, and then we had the 2 o'clock advisory. Then at the 6 o'clock, it jumped once again, and then 20 minutes later, it became a Category 4. So,
and unfortunately, there's still more time for it to really dive into the waters of the Gulf of Mexico and intensify. So I wouldn't be surprised if it strengthened just a bit more before landfall tonight, because of just really the dynamics. Warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, not a whole lot of shear or even dry air to really contend or interfere with this system strengthening, unfortunately.
And we're thinking, what, around 11 o'clock tonight?
Yeah, just before midnight, landfall in the Big Bend region.
yeah, late tonight when the lights are out, that's when we're going to see it make landfall, and we could possibly see some spin-ups out that direction, too. We're going to take you out to our Gulf Coast. I think this is the St. Pete Tower Cam, in which it's tough to see out there. We have water droplets on top of it. The wave heights are crashing into the shoreline right now, so pretty nasty conditions outdoors, and I think the camera picture paints 1,000 words. You don't want to be outside right now because this is what you are walking out to across the Gulf Coast. Terrible conditions for the moment, and we won't only see those get worse as Helene continues to strengthen before making landfall in the Big Bend area. So here's the 7 o'clock advisory. The movement is towards the north and the northeast. That path hasn't changed much in the last 6 hours, but its speed towards that direction has. 23 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds show 130 mile per hour conditions. And from the 6 o'clock to the 7 o'clock advisory, the biggest change that we've seen is the pressure drop. It's now at 945 millibars. So the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. And we still have time before landfall for Helene to continue to strengthen. So just want to put this into perspective for you guys. Category 3, that starts at 111 miles per hour. Category 4, 130, that's what it jumped to at 620. But now we're a stronger Category 4 hurricane, and we could potentially see that speed increase before landfall. And it's even maintaining its hurricane strength all the way through Florida, crossing over the I-10 corridor, and then into Georgia. We could still have a Category 2 on our hand early out the door on Friday morning. So it doesn't look like this system is slowing down anytime soon. I feel like it's doing the complete opposite. So here's a look at satellite and radar inching across that Gulf coastline. And you see this flash flood advisory across the panhandle of Florida right now. This is new because we've just been training these showers for hours upon hours. I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen already 7+ inches of rain out that direction. Another impact that we're consistently watching has been the wind gusts. These are inland observations. We got a 70 mile per hour wind gust here across I-75, and we will see those outer bands continue to show breezy conditions right here in central Florida as well. Further to our south, I know we did have a couple tornado warnings across our southernmost communities, and that's because of these pieces of energy continuing to swirl across Helene. Inland, a gust here in Lake County, 52 miles per hour. So super breezy conditions, and oftentimes it's the breezy winds that send trees crashing down. You don't want the debris on the road, and Obviously, you don't want any power outages. Trees could do that too, crashing into power lines. So flood warning out towards the west. We do see a couple bands of rain now entering Polk County. These are fast-moving pieces of showers right now, so the rain possibly won't stay overhead for long just because of the natural speed of these bands across I-75 into Claremont, Leesburg, the Villages. 1 second you have the rain, the next second you don't. That's just because these showers are moving in so quickly. And we talked about the showers across the panhandle of Florida out towards Apalachicola, where we've seen that consistent rain. I was thinking around 7 inches. Looks like our radar indication shows anywhere between 6 and 7. And that's just over the last 12 hours. And we still have hours upon hours of rain still to go. I think the rain is going to be a major impact across the Gulf Coast, where we can mix that with the storm surge. That'll increase the chance for any potential flooding. But Cam, you mentioned that inland, some of our biggest impacts may just include the winds.
That's right. We've already seen some peak wind gusts well over 50 miles per hour. In fact, here's a look at the graphic here showing some of the top wind speeds across our area. We are expecting wind gusts well over 50 miles per hour in some locations. Silver Lake, 54. Orlando International, 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts already, 48 in Daytona Beach Shores. Melbourne, wind gusts around 45 miles per hour. Wind speeds right now sustained coming out of southeast at 25 to 35 miles per hour, but gradually increasing as we go through the evening. Current wind gusts, meaning wind gusts within the last hour, have peaked out around 52 in Leesburg, 43 in Melbourne, and 49 in the City Beautiful. As we continue to track out those wind gusts through tonight, look at this, 71-mile-per-hour winds around 10, 11 o'clock tonight out towards Ocala. We're talking about wind gusts around 50 to 60 in Leesburg, even in the Orlando metro. Then by about 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, we are still dealing with tropical storm strength winds. Notice, though, those wind speeds do gradually ease on off as we look ahead for early Friday morning. Here's look around daybreak early Friday. We are expecting winds sustained around 20 to 30 miles per hour and then gradually easing through the day tomorrow. So we are no longer going to see the threat for tropical storm strength winds, especially by about midday on Friday. Here's a look at your Helene forecast. Right now, fast-moving showers and thunderstorms will be tracking the possibility of tornadoes, especially as we go through the overnight hours. Tropical storm strength winds are expected through the overnight hours, but again, tomorrow morning, those winds will gradually ease with a few rain showers around even through early tomorrow morning. However, we're not expecting those heavy downpours that we are expecting late tonight. But the good news with the downpours that Marquise was tracking, at least though they're moving fairly quickly, so we're not expecting widespread flooding to be concerned. If we do see flooding, it's going to be some localized pockets thanks to the squall and bands moving over the same areas over and over again. Here's a look at your Central Florida certified most accurate forecast. So tomorrow morning still impact morning. Low rain chances this upcoming weekend. And then look at that. Finally, we get some drier air for early next week. Rain chances only around 40% chance with high temperatures hovering around the 90s. Coming up in the 7:30 half hour, I'm going to go hour or county by county and track out when you'll see the worst of the weather and how much more additional rain we could expect.
Closed captioning brought to you by National Floors Direct.
Right now at National